All right. Let me tell you why I love Ryan Leaf. And full disclosure, I need to say that I have had a pretty bad drug problem in my life. Almost killed me. I had a heart attack at a very young age. And as of a couple days ago, I am now sober for 20 years, which is a miracle. It's 20 years of borrowed time, which is why I want to talk to my friend Ryan today. Ryan, I'm a huge football fan, and Ryan is a guy who got success at a young age and led the Washington State Cougars to the Rose Bowl, I believe in 1998, and was a hot item for every NFL team. He announced that he was going to go right into the draft, and the NFL responded by saying, yes, we want you. The top two guys that everybody wanted was Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. Peyton Manning went number one in the draft. Ryan Leaf went number two. And I understand youth and talent being a dangerous combination. I have met many, many people. When you're young and you think, I'm pretty good at this, and you get so many accolades right away, your brain will tell you, you know what? I'm amazing. That is something that has happened time and time again. I've seen many, many friends go through that same experience. So when the story happens of Ryan getting to the NFL, stories start coming out that he's not working with the teams. He's not working with the Chargers that he got, the organization he got brought into. There are stories that he doesn't want to be coached. A few years go by, Ryan gets traded to another team, and within a few years, he's not in the NFL anymore. A few years after that, I'm now sober, and a story comes out that Ryan is in prison, and he's serving a sentence for, I believe it was breaking into a house. He was already on probation, and he broke into a house. He had become a drug addict. Years go by, and I have a lot of friends who are in recovery. When I see Ryan show up amongst my friends, and the first thing, I didn't know who it was, but me and a musician friend of mine, we looked at him and go, God damn, that dude is huge. Like, he just walked in like this big athletic dude, and I was like, who is that guy? I met him. He said his name was Ryan. And someone goes, I think that's Ryan Leaf. And I go, Ryan Leaf? And my first thought, selfishly, was like, I want to play catch with Ryan. That was my first thought. I've never played catch with an elite athlete. I'm like, that dude went to the Rose Bowl. I want to. That's my first thought. Second thought was like, wow, man, what's going on with that dude? And started talking to him. I've never met a more honest guy in my life. He has said so many things that have humbled me in his desire to be a better person. And I get to know him. We become friendly. And I don't know him that well yet, but he mentions that he has to go to Super Bowl 50 in San Francisco, and he's really hesitant. And he's hesitant because he hasn't attended an NFL event of any type for 15 years. And he says, man, I feel like everyone in the NFL thinks I'm less than. And I'm being required to go, and I don't want to see people there because I'm afraid of what they think of me. And I told him, I go to the Super Bowl every year, and I do radio appearances, and I always do a comedy show because I'm a big football fan. I love going to the Super Bowl. I like to interview players at the Super Bowl and ask them like fun, silly questions. I'll hang out with you. And he said, really? Take my number. We exchange phone numbers, and we meet up in San Francisco. I tell him I'm going to be at the media center, which is where Every massive media outlet is broadcasting from the Super Bowl Media Center every year. And Ryan says, "Can I go with you?" And I said, "If you want, absolutely. Do you want to do any interviews?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'd like to actually tell people my story about what I've been through." And I went, "I could easily help." And I remember the first couple guys I talked to about that, they said, "Ryan Leaf is here? And he wants to do an interview?" I go, "Yeah, he wants to tell his story." Brought him in, and this is insane. And I swear it's true. People from all over the NFL, famous players, famous coaches, all started coming towards Ryan in the middle of his interviews, waiting for him to get done. These are guys who have a press schedule, but they see Ryan and they want to wait to talk to Ryan Leaf before they move on with their press schedule. And he gets done, and I couldn't believe it. Famous NFL players, famous NFL personalities, famous NFL coaches all come over to say the same thing. "Dude, how are you? I missed you and I love you. I'm so glad to see you and to see that you're doing okay, man. Take my number, dude. I miss you." And me, football fan, I'm in the middle going, "I'm Craig. I brought him. I just want to say hello. I'm a big fan." Nobody cares about me. They're all coming there to see Ryan. If you've ever fucked up, and I think we all have, Ryan Leaf is a beacon of light, because there was a time when the media had a feeding frenzy on his failure and held him up as an example of, this is failure. And I've known some people who've made mistakes and then hide. And Ryan reemerged and said, "You know what? I think my story could help people. So I want you to know what I've been through." And he's done it with so much humility that he's not only gotten back into football and has become a guy that's being asked to do broadcast college and NFL games. He's a guy who's been asked by sports organizations around the world to come out and share his story. And now my friend, who I got to play catch with, and he almost killed me, almost took my head off, Ryan Leaf, is joining me now. Ryan, how are you?
What's up, buddy? It's good to see you.
Did I talk too much? Was that way too much of a prolonged story?
I mean, it's just, it's funny to hear from other people's perspectives, but I think, you were probably the most apt to tell that story, since you were there with me along with our ride. Anna, my wife, now my wife, who was my new girlfriend at the time, was with us as well. And so, I was there primarily to get a health screening. Is the reason I was there. The NFL was doing these health screenings for former players, which was a really in-depth medical screening. So like carotid artery MRIs and things like that because I had just spent 3 years in prison. And so, I wanted to see if I was going to die, of a stroke or something like that. Because I had, ballooned up to 325 pounds and I hadn't eaten well. And so that was the reason I was going. But I said it in a group setting with us one night, and I told everybody how hesitant I was of going, because I may not necessarily run into anybody, but I mean, come on, it's a really good chance. And I felt really uncomfortable going. And you said, yeah, you'd be up there. And so I went to do the medical evaluation, and it's in the Denver Broncos team hotel down in like one of the boardrooms. And so,
Denver was in the Super Bowl. It was Denver.
Yeah, it was Denver and Carolina, Super Bowl 50.
Yeah.
So of course Denver's in the Super Bowl, which means Peyton Manning's in the Super Bowl, who I was drafted alongside.
Oh my God.
And so, even more, just there was more to it. And I remember I was leaving the evaluation with Anna, and I run into a guy by the name of Paul Pabst. And Paul is the executive producer for the Dan Patrick Show. And we'd stayed close even through my time in prison. He was a good person. He's a really good person. Ironically enough, we live like 10 minutes from each other now. And his kids babysit my kids. It's crazy. And he just simply said, "Hey, Ryan, if Dan would love to talk to you. If you want to come on the show tomorrow morning, that'd be great. No pressure, nothing. So good to see you. So happy to see you." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't probably think I'd want to do that." But we went to dinner. You, Anna, myself, your friend, and we went and had some food. And I asked you what your thought about it, and then I reached out to a bunch of my sponsor and a bunch of guys from our group and talked to them about whether or not I should, do something like this. And what had hit overnight was that Johnny Manziel had just been arrested in Dallas for assaulting his girlfriend at the time, and he had flamed out of the NFL, and so there was something really relatable there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on the Dan Patrick Show the next morning, and I simply, had a conversation with him, kind of told my story, where I was at, how I was feeling. I was accountable. I didn't hide anything. And then I kind of thought that was the end of it. But then these producers started calling and talking to Anna and saying, "Could you run over to the ESPN desk?" And then they brought us to Radio Row, and you walked me through that with a bunch of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And those nerves that I had, or any grounding that I needed, I just looked at you, or I kind of just, kind of tapped your shoulder, and I felt a little grounded. You told a little, there was a little comedic break there if you wanted to throw some comedy in there.
Yeah, you had me join you for a couple. I'm like, "Hey, you want to try to be funny?" And I go, "I can try."
Yeah, you can try. It doesn't take a lot for you to be funny. And then he's right. Like, I stood up, and there around the corner when I turned around was Jerry Rice and Steve Young, and they run over to give me a hug and talk to me. And so, a lot of the misconceptions of fear around judgment of others and stuff like that, and shame, is usually based in the unknown.
Yes.
We fear what we don't know.
100%.
And I was just so fearful of being looked at as, but I forgot, as we always do, that my peers, the ones that played alongside me or have played before or played after, they know like nobody else how hard it is to get there, and how hard it is to stay there, and how hard it is to be successful. So none of my peers ever in my lifetime have ever looked at me and went, "Oh, he's a bust. He's a failure."
Right.
And I forgot that. I'd been hit over the head so much in my life by other people who have no real say in any of it, who I gave a lot of say to, and what their belief of me was. So I changed that, and that trip and that day, 9 years ago, coming up on, I think, 9-year anniversary of that,
Yep.
Changed everything for me, because I did. I said, "You know what? I'm going to take the power away from this. I'm going to own what I own. I'm going to be B Rabbit from 8 Mile. And, I'm going to say everything that's the truth." And now nobody has any ammo. And what's ironic about the whole thing, Craig, is that, like, I'm more confident as a human being now with all that baggage, with all that stuff, than I ever was as a starting NFL quarterback, which is crazy to think. But I think it just goes to show you what can come from a grateful recovering alcoholic. I think it's just,
well, you have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
And everything you've done, you've put out there. And I was surprised at how relatable that moment was for me. I have had moments in my life where I don't have communication with people. And for some reason in my head, I don't know where it starts, but I start developing a storyline that they're thinking something of me.
Yeah.
And I remember one time doing the Howard Stern show. I hadn't been on the Howard Stern show in a while. Hadn't heard from a few of the guys in a while. And for some reason in my head, I had a whole thing going on in my head about, oh, I know this guy is thinking this and this guy's thinking this. And you know what? Now that they've booked me to come on the show, as soon as I get in the studio, I'm going to let everybody have it. I'm going to tell them the truth about what's been going on. And I walk in the studio and those people walk up to me and go, dude, how come you don't call us? And I go,
oh, what's my part in this?
And I go, oh, I didn't. And they go, dude, we emailed you to do some stuff with you. And I go, you did? And then I look and I see in my junk mail, they actually emailed me and I didn't realize it was them. And I said, oh man, they go, dude, we miss you. And I was moments away from going on a national broadcast and absolutely
going, what the fuck's wrong with you people?
Yeah.
You know?
And absolutely embarrassing myself. And it was surprising to me that because I was so aware of your story and I didn't know you personally. I was so aware of things that had happened to you. And now getting to know you, I'm hearing stories of what it's like being that person who is held up publicly like that and is attacked like that. And it was so surprising to me to hear you share your vulnerabilities about that. You shared a story about being on a date with Anna when you first met her, and being
when we were in group,
yeah, and how someone heckled you in the street, and I remember when we had that experience in San Francisco, I guess some part of my head expected to see what you said you thought you were going to see. And then, so I got to have the same surprise you did by watching it be nothing like that at all. And to watch you get embraced by people. It was one of the most inspiring things I've ever experienced in recovery is to know that we're all the same and that we have dialogue in our head that doesn't match up to what people really.
And it absolutely propelled everything for me. I mean, 9 years later, you know, like you said, I mean, I broadcast collegiate and NFL football games. You know, I travel around the country and probably speak anywhere from 30 to 40 times a year, have my own radio show. It's with Sirius XM. So it's crazy. I mean, it is really crazy if you would have said 9 years ago when we were going through that whole process and us four were sitting at dinner that night talking about it, going, you know, can you imagine 9 years from now, this is what it will look like? First off, that Anna and I would somehow have been able to stay together. And now we have 2 kids.
Beautiful kids.
And we've moved to Connecticut and, you know, and it's amazing. And that literally propelled that. You know, you had a hand in just carrying me through that process. And it's a big reason why you and I stayed so close, because I think we just know how important we are to one another and and our families. And so this is pretty cool, man. I know this story. I've heard you tell it before, and I tell it too. I tell it to people all the time because it was a catalyst for me. It gave me the confidence and understanding to know I'm okay, and what you think of me is none of my business. This is going to be about the people that still struggle and who need to hear it. And I'm going to be the lighthouse that I was promised to be long ago.
Man, and the neat thing about it is you love football as much as I love stand-up comedy. On a night off, I love to go to comedy clubs. I love that I can watch my favorite comedians for free. I love that I'm friends with all my favorite comedians and I can just hang out and watch them do their thing. You love football and you love talking football. So the fact that you get to still be in football and be in the football world clearly is a passion of yours. And it's a really neat thing to see you making a living doing that.
It's amazing that I get paid to talk about football. Like, this is like when I was a kid with my dad sitting at the breakfast table and just talking stats and stuff. And now people are asking me to do it on television and on the radio, and they're paying me a wage to do it. So, I am. But But I love going to your comedy too.
Yeah.
Like you, I mean, every time we're at the Super Bowl and you are always setting up, we always come to your comedy show.
Yeah.
You make us laugh. I also think that I'm biased. Like all my favorite comedians, like I've become friends with, I feel like I go to their shows and I do find them funny, but at some point I kind of look at Anna going, and I'm like, are we obligated to laugh at everything?
I also have this weakness that I would call it a pastime. Whenever I see you on TV, and actually this goes for anybody I know. Whenever I see someone I know in a movie or on TV or something, one of my favorite pastimes is to exaggerate my friendship with that person and
Yes.
And go like, "Oh my God, Ryan!" And like, dude, Ryan's one of my best. Dude,
he's probably my. Well, he's my brother. Really. We adopted him.
Ryan taught me how to throw a spiral.
Ride a bike.
Like,
Yep.
yeah. And I watching you now become a leader for this aspect of life that is a pitfall that you go and speak to teams about the pitfalls of success. I have to imagine that over the years now, you've made some friends with athletes who've come up maybe shyly, like, hey, just out of curiosity, if I wanted to get help. I'm sure you get a lot of those guys, right?
It's crazy. Going to a group of collegiate football players this year I went and spoke to for a conference, and they had 2 players from every team from their conference there. And my first question was to them, how many of you know my story or know who I am? And they raised their hand. All of them raised their hand. And I said, is it because of a negative connotation or a positive one?
Ooh.
And they first time ever since I've been doing this in the last 10 years, I think I don't know if it was 16 teams, so 32 kids raised their hand for positive.
Get the fuck out of here.
From my speaking, from my broadcasting, all of that, which is, it proves a point too. Hey, just breathe. This all too shall pass. Okay, just keep doing the next right thing. And we've gotten to that place. And then I got whisked away and had to call the Green Bay Packers Minnesota Vikings game last year on New Year's Eve. And all of a sudden, the tight end for one of the teams walks over to me pregame when I was on the field, and he grabs me and he goes, "Hey, do you remember me? I'm so and so from Baylor." And I said, "Yeah, of course." And he's like, "Hey, man, I just want to tell you, when you came and spoke to us before the season this year, it changed my outlook on everything, on how I went about things, and now I'm in the NFL, and I just wanted to say a thing." So it's the guys that I'm meeting and interviewing now at the NFL level are guys that I may have had contact with in college over the last 8-9 years and have had a different kind of purposeful effect that I may have never had as a player, or just if I had been any good or had won some Super Bowls. So yeah, it's been fascinating, and it's been rewarding, and it's purposeful because of it. And I'm glad I get to have that impact. Like, not a big taking a compliment guy. Like,
none of us.
I'm pretty self-deprecating around that stuff. But I mean, that feels pretty good to know that's because it has become purposeful for me. And so to know that it is having an effect, that means, that's meaningful to me. I think that's the best way to put it.
And when you share your story over and over again, there's something about that helps keep you on that path. You're essentially digging in deep and saying, "Hey, man, this is everything I did. These are all the mistakes I made." And it's so.
So I did it again today.
Oh, you did?
Okay.
For a group?
I did it again. No, I did the whole transparency, accountability thing today.
Okay.
So they fired Washington, or they didn't fire, but the Washington State head football coach left my alma mater and went to Wake Forest.
Okay.
And any sports fans out there know that it's been a tough couple years for Washington State and Oregon State because they got left behind in terms of conference realignment. And so it's been up and down. But this team with this coach for the last 4 years has found a way. They went 8-4 this year. It was a disappointing end because they had a real chance. They had a great quarterback, which isn't strange at Washington State. For some reason, they developed the hell out of quarterbacks who become great. And but today was, yesterday, I think we heard that the quarterback was entering the transfer portal, was probably going to go play at more of a blue blood, and then the head coach today left. Well, there was a lot of conversation, first off about, a lot of resentment for this coach, and I'm not of that mindset at all. I thanked him for his time there and what he did for me and for Cougar football. But then a lot of people started talking about, who's the next head coach, and people started bringing up my name to be the coach.
Oh, wow.
And I had coached before, and this is why. And I said,
I saw this.
I said, being a coach is a privilege. It's not a right. The privilege of having a hand in teaching and helping 18 to 22-year-olds in this case, or in youth sports, is an absolute privilege. And I got a chance to do it when I was in Texas about 14 years ago. And unfortunately, I was dealing heavily with my addiction at the time. And I stole from my players, and I asked my players for their pain pills.
Wow.
And so because of that, I don't have the right to be a coach again. And it's not because of, I think some of them got some different kind of context from it. Like it would be triggering or something like that. None of that. It has nothing to do with that. What it has to do is, I don't think any player should ever have to answer for their coach, because as soon as I got the job, reporters would all go to the players, and the players would have to support me and support something they have no idea about, and all that stuff. And I'm telling you right now, as a parent, I know this country's based in redemption and second chances and third chances and stuff like that. But listen, like I said, it's a privilege. And I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't send my kid to be coached if someone had done that and to victimize them and take advantage of them. So I said that today publicly. I've said that before. You've heard me say that before.
Yeah.
So it's not something new, but it's the first time I've been really public about it, like public about it on social media. And it blew up. It did 500,000 views in a matter of 10 minutes. And people were like, this is amazing. And then there was the context of it. Maybe there's a legal reason why you can't, or so,
Isn't that great?
you can, now there's more context on Craig Gass's podcast if we cut it and then you guys can release it. That type of mentality, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Watching you embrace recovery and being a witness to how much you've changed over the years, and to see where you're at now, it's so relatable. We all make mistakes. We all fuck up. I know someone watching this is fucking their life up right now.
Yes.
And is trying to figure out what to do. I'm
probably trying to figure fuck it up some way too, somehow. I know, just
yeah, for
just me as a human being.
For some reason, for me, the toughest thing has been success is the thing that I struggle with more than failures. I embrace failures, the learning experience of failures.
Right? The one I have a problem. I'm more used to hearing people say, Ryan Leaf, that piece of shit, than Ryan Leaf's an inspiration. I'm like, what? That doesn't sound right.
Wow. Yeah, there's
right? When I'm done giving a speech and they applaud and someone stand up, or when you're done with doing your show and people are applauding, my eyes, my body language, my eyes tend to go to my feet. I know I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at it. But that's my muscle memory is to look at my feet and kind of oh God, no. And then when somebody goes, Ryan, leave? You mean that piece of shit? I'd be like, yeah, that sounds
me.
about right.
That's me. And I changed my life for. So to close out, to that person that's watching, that's struggling and hasn't been able to put it together, what would you say to that person that's watching right now and sees you as a person who's put everything out there? I've had it all. I've lost it all. I've got it back. what do you say to the person that's losing it all right now and doesn't know how to change?
Well, really, a big part of it is like, if I can do this, anybody can.
Hmm.
You know, I think that's a good place to start. And then, you know, my question is, and it's rhetorical. I don't need an answer really, but what are you willing to do to stay sober, or what are you willing to do to change your life? And if the answer isn't everything, there isn't much anybody can do for you. There has to be surrender. There has to be acceptance, accepting who you are, and then surrendering to it and allowing people to help you. I think that's, and if anything, if this conversation between you and I can tell someone out there, you know, allow people to help you. I allowed Craig to help me. And that was different for me. Like I didn't ask for help. And that was a big part of the problem. And your story, you probably don't believe this, but your story, if you're watching this, can have an effect just as much as mine. Mine isn't any more interesting or better or worse. Either is Craig's. We're the same. We're these flawed human beings trying to be better every day. And your story will probably be just as impactful as anybody else's, because someone will relate to it and it will change their lives, and you'll be filled with purpose. I wish I could carry you 18 months down the line and show you what it's going to look like, but you need those 18 months to harden that process. And so that's what I would say to you. That's what I usually say to people. And if you're willing to do that, you can have the life of your dreams. Just look at me and my buddy here.
I will add one thing to that, which is something I would have needed to hear. If you're in a bad spot in life, you probably don't think very highly of yourself. You need to love yourself enough to get help and ask for help. And that was a big part of it. That was a big part of my ability to walk by the mirror and love the guy I see in it. That took a while. And that may take a while into recovery too. It did for me. I mean, I just recently, after the last few years, really, I think that's allowed me to continue to own and not be ashamed of my past, is because I like who I see in the mirror now. And I think you can relate to that and understand that, even though sometimes we still do stupid shit that makes us not necessarily like it. But then we're very self-aware and going, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm a flawed human being, so it's okay. I'm really grateful for our friendship, man. And thank you for taking time to talk to me. And I asked you beforehand if it was okay to share the story. And you said, absolutely. And I was like, all right, cool. Because this story is really one of those amazing moments that I couldn't believe I witnessed. And I love your wife. I love both of you together.
I love your wife.
That's I do, man. Line. I love your wife. I love you. I love Anna.
Well, she loves you too. Like if she could go on, like if she just could go off for a year and go on tour and watch you do comedy, she probably would. So that, I don't know what to take. I don't know what to think about all that, but
well, we'll probably run into each other at the next Super Bowl. So we'll see if we can make that happen at the next Super Bowl. And
are you going to be in New Orleans? Yeah,
I will be in New Orleans. Yep. And
I didn't go. We didn't go last year.
Oh, that's right. In Vegas. That's right.
First year since Super Bowl 50, where we went, is the first year we didn't go. Our baby was like a month old, or a month and 2 months old. And so I don't know. I might have to go down for some business stuff, which means, Radio Row, which is you're in my strong suit.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. Guess what, man?
What's that?
Come on, push the door.
Uh-oh.
Someone coming in? Yep. Come on. MacGyver.
Here's your evidence of a life
Come
changed.
Here. MacGyver.
One of my favorite things about you.
Somebody wants to see you on TV.
Here's the product of change.
This is like, so when Craig and I did this dude didn't exist.
Yeah.
Come here.
I love that.
On this side. Come on this side.
I love that you named him MacGyver. All right, here you go. No! It's like a full-grown human being.
Look right into that camera right there.
Hey,
full
MacGyver.
Grown. How old are you?
7.
7? Oh, we were talking about things like the things that we can control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember the 3 things that you can only control?
Attitude, behavior, and effort.
Yep.
Wow.
Those are the only 3 things, right?
Yeah.
How are you doing with that?
Good.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Yes. Why you laugh when you say it? Why you laugh when you say it? What? All right. Go do your homework, okay?
Okay.
All right. Love you.
That's amazing.
Right? Just got home from school on the school bus.
Wow.
Individual kid, just get off the school bus, come into the house, go do his homework. I love it.
I'm so happy for you and all the things that are going on in your life. It's well deserved. And I love that you have turned everything that's been public into your greatest strength that is so relatable. We've all made mistakes. And I love what you've turned it into a lesson and owned it.
I need you to. I always use this line like on social media when people are giving a hard time. I said, "Hey, we making lemonade over here, bitches."
Yeah.
I would love you to do that in Tracy Morgan's voice.
We making
lemonade over here, bitches.
We making lemonade over here, bitches. That's crazy. You're welcome. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, buddy.
I'll
Love
see you soon. Love you too. Thank you. Ryan Leaf, everybody.